how I got started in property development, a low risk strategy. So welcome to this first video in the 3-part series. In this video, I'm going to share with you the property development strategy that helped insulate me against overstretching myself financially. It allowed me to progress at a speed and budget that was both sustainable and manageable. So there are many ways in which you can get into property development. A quick search on Google will highlight a huge number of get rich quick schemes and no money down property strategies. In the early days, I did explore a few of these, but I soon retreated and decided to instead put my energy and effort into buying my first home and educating myself. So initially, I didn't really have a strategy per se, but I just solely set out to make money from property. I spent 22 months saving up for a deposit, researching the market, and once in a proceedable position, viewing properties. I viewed more places than I can remember, each time trying to work out where I could add value and trying to spot something that no one else had seen. So, although I didn't really have a strategy, I knew what I liked, and this led me to unlocking my passion and thus falling into a strategy that has stood me in an extremely good position since. I love period property. I love old beams. I love curved imperfect walls that have witnessed hundreds of years of history. Working out how to give a building a feeling of being old, having just been renovated and brought up to modern day standards, was what kept me awake at night and eager to learn more. So by purchasing a period property that I loved as my main residence, meant that if the economy went to hell in a handcart and property values toppled, if I was left in negative equity, it's my biggest fear around any property purchase, then at least I'd have a beautiful home to live in that I was enthusiastic about. Not a bad fallback position, I would say. So most people I speak to today about property investing are a lot like I was back when I first started. They are looking for the fast track system that can take them straight from where they are now to multiple property portfolio that earns thousands of pounds every month completely passively. Sorry to be the bearer of bad news, but in my experience, unless you're sat on a mountain of money, this strategy does not exist. So the strategy I learned over time was by buying a property I truly loved and was inspired by, it motivated me to create something amazing that was not like you see every day in the estate agent window. By having this passion in what I was doing, it made the bad times a bit more bearable. Because yes, I'm afraid to say there will most certainly be bad times along your journey. By the house being my main residence, I was not lumbered with a second set of bills, because this can be absolutely crippling if there are delays, which there often are. Sparring costs that cannot be managed is the main reason behind most property developers who go bankrupt. Instead, by living in the house I was doing up, it meant value could be added in my spare time and it could be paid for as and when I could afford it. So a good example of this is when I purchased a property, I started working on it. We were 1 week in, we were just ripping stuff out, and I fell off a mountain bike in Wales and broke my right collarbone. So this took me out of action for 8 weeks. If I had to pay for my general living costs and the cost of a mortgage and any associated bills from running a renovation project, it could well have left me in serious trouble. Of course, living in projects can be extremely challenging, although there are many ways which you can make things more manageable. The end goal for most people is generally to work towards being able to run projects separate to living there. I have got to this stage, but it's worth saying this took me 9 years. By adding value to my main residence and doing the work over a period of a couple of years, it allowed a much more sustainable approach that is better insulated to withstand economic issues. It can also be very tax efficient, so it's worth having a discussion with your accountant about this. So after 7 years of repeating this process, I managed to get my first holiday let property set up. It's called the Old Chicken House. If set up correctly, this can be a great way not only to add value to the property, but also earn a relatively passive income going forward. By taking this approach, I've now managed to get to a stage where I no longer need to work full time, but I still have an extremely good income. The thing I want to stress is, unless you're starting out with huge sums of money behind you, it does take time. Therefore, don't always rush for the get rich quick scenarios. In my experience, rarely do they work. So what I've done is I've bundled up all the knowledge I've gained over the years and I've put it into bite-sized, easy to follow course to help those starting out get further faster. When I work with one-to-one clients, the first thing I ask is, what sort of lifestyle are you looking for? What would you want your life to look like in 5 years' time, in 10 years' time? The answer to these questions should shape your strategy going forward. So in conclusion, I can now recognise if I take another direction, it could well have put me in serious financial risk. Using this strategy allowed me to move as fast or as slow as was necessary at any given time. Look forward to seeing you in video number 2.